well, here we're talking about sins when abortion is not a sin. If we talk about sins, the Quran is full of the sin of not being charitable to one's neighbors and one's family. I always read the Quran in Ramadan, the translation, and enjoy it very much. And I mean, every time I read it, I'm kind of, one of the things that strikes me is that, that what we often hear about sins as being the most important sins is not there. It's about being compassionate, about being kind, about being charitable, about caring for the life of other people. And so we have to look also to other countries, other Muslim countries. We may have what we think is best as a sort of a Muslim response, but an early abortion, when in Islam abortion is allowed up to 4 months, when the soul is regarded as entering the fetus, so it's not yet alive, it's not regarded as alive. So it's not a sin. Abortion is not a sin in Islam if you follow the the general principles and requirements. In fact, a bigger sin, if you want, not a bigger sin, but a clear sin, is of course allowing your baby to die. And for Muslim women who are forced to do that by circumstances, they know that. They must feel terrible about that. And that's, infanticide, that was one of the first things that Islam, the Prophet disallowed. And so we have to correct that notion. Definitely, there's no big problem about abortion in Islam. We brought a scholar here. It's about 12 years ago that we brought Professor Dr. Abdul Omran to Kuala Lumpur to talk about contraception and abortion in Malaysia. And he gave a public lecture. ARRO and the National Population and Family Development Board co-hosted it. And he was fabulous. He wrote a book. He studied all the Muslim countries in the world, and he wrote a book on contraception and abortion, all the fatwas. And he was the advisor to Al-Azhar University in Cairo. So he's very knowledgeable. And a moderate man, not a radical man, a moderate man. And we had a dialogue where there were gynecologists who said, this is the first time that I have ever had the chance to talk about Islam and abortion. And they enjoyed it very much. And, he said the same things that I have, said generally today about the principles involved in deciding on what is best. And the variety in Muslim countries, regarding abortion and contraception, and the fact that Islam is so much more progressive than Catholicism in terms of rights, of reproductive rights of women to choose. So it's and the fact is that Muslim women have been having very early abortions, just soon after the period has been delayed, for many years, quite without any sense of guilt. And I say that because, like I was saying, my first job was in the Kelantan Family Planning Association, which of course Kelantan's a very rural state, and we would ask women their family history when they came into the Family Planning Association. How many pregnancies, how many miscarriage, how many abortions, and this was in the 70s. We want to say, oh yes, I had, one miscarriage, and dua kali saya cuba gugurkan, dapat jugalah awal lah. So it's part of that was really before contraception was so readily available. It was the early days of the family planning program, but I think it's that, it's the understanding that women have, that when things are really susah, when they have, when their health is very poor, when they have, when they've been abused by their husband. Some women are actually forced into sex with their husbands. They have a husband who's a wife beater. They don't have the money to support their family. They have poverty, and they know that having another pregnancy is actually going to cause a lot of problems. These are the reasons, in my experience in the past, why women would consider having an early abortion. And then it wasn't so safe because they would go to the kampung bidan. But later on, of course, it became more accessible to women. And you know, an early abortion only takes 10 minutes. You can go home from the clinic on the same day. But unfortunately, they're quite expensive if you go to the private doctors. And so you need to know a good doctor that doesn't exploit women. RRAAM has such a list. We do keep a list of doctors who really are interested in women's welfare and don't charge too much. Are in it for the service. And there are many women who do actually go for an abortion because perhaps they don't use contraception so well, but even when they do, there's always the risk. There's nothing that's 100%, you know. There are many women, but the women that find it most hard are the young women. They have no money, they don't know about services, they're scared, there's stigma. And you know, it's like you say, well, where will these women go to? Because they're the ones that we need to reach out before they you know, do other things that are not so good for them.
Why is there stigma?
I guess it's about sex, you know. It gets back to like, yes, we can't talk about it, we can't think about it, it doesn't exist. Exactly. It's our attitudes towards sexuality, and it's also our moralistic attitude. We don't like people to do what we think's not right. But actually, if we want to take a stand, anyone, it should be a little bit deeper principles. It should be about, we don't want people to hurt themselves. We don't want people to hurt others unnecessarily. So if you have two people, be they young people or older people, who are engaging in sexual activity in agreement, with respect, they're not coercing, there's no rape, one could take a broad view, ethical view, and say, what harm are they doing? I mean, that's one view. What harm are they doing? Because the principle of harm, you know, are they protecting themselves? Are they being respectful? Because we have so much on. We know so that there's so much going on in terms of relationships, extramarital relationships. What about the morality of that, where you're cheating? You may be cheating. Maybe your partner knows, your spouse knows. Maybe they don't, but quite often they don't. So you may have cheating, or lying, dishonesty, deception, many things, and so it's not consensual. And maybe you have an agreement with your spouse, you know, which most people do, not to have other relationships. So if you have, on the other hand, an unmarried couple who are old enough to make an informed decision, who have a sexual relationship but are responsible about it, they're not getting pregnant, they're not being distracted from their studies, then one can ask what is the danger in that for them, if they've been adequately educated both by their parents and by the schools. If they haven't, yeah, there's some risk. If they have, then what really are the risks?